Hello and welcome to what would have been day 9 of the Betfred World Snooker Championship. We've got another exclusive for you on our Facebook and YouTube pages. We have an extended interview with Neil Robertson, a world number 2 and the 2010 world champion. He says if the government advice allows, the World Championship starting at the end of July could be a tonic for everyone.
I think it's a realistic date to set. It's not like we're trying to, get it in May or June or something like that. I think, towards the end of July, I think it's certainly feasible. And it just all depends on, the government guidelines, how they change, getting the qualifiers done. That's probably the toughest task, I think, for World Snooker is to get those qualifiers done because they take a couple of weeks in themselves. And so I'm sure World Snooker are working 24/7 on this to get it done. And it'd be interesting. Obviously the Crucible is the best place to play, in front of a big crowd, and the whole of Sheffield is buzzing, and But
how would you feel if it was behind closed doors?
I mean, if it was behind closed doors, then it would obviously it would take away a lot from. I mean, for example, when I won it, I had my mum there and other family members and your friends there, and you're all partying afterwards. It would be a different feeling. There's no doubt about that. But I think these are really tough times we live in, and I look at it from a perspective where we're trying to provide live content, live entertainment for people that are watching at home. Maybe a lot of people have been doing it really tough, and I know that sport can really inspire people all around the world, and maybe that can just give people a little bit of a boost, that they need.
We've got to give credit to World Snooker, BBC, Eurosport, Sheffield Council, and the Crucible itself. Being so forward thinking and hopefully getting it on at the end of July.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be really interesting as well from a playing perspective to play in the summer, because usually we play. Usually you have this kind of like the summer off in a way, maybe a couple of smaller events that are optional to play in. But to play the World Championships in the summer will be really interesting. I think, it's the playing conditions could vary slightly. Not really too sure, because usually we play the Asian side of the tour sort of during the hotter months. So we don't usually play in the UK during the summer. So yeah, it would be pretty interesting.
It must have cheered you up and the rest of the players, because obviously you lot live by the calendar, don't you? Now, at least you've got something to look forward to. Yeah,
that's it. I think it's really tough if you don't have anything to kind of work towards. If you don't have any dates set in stone. I think I know a couple of other guys involved in sport and other sports, and it's tough training every day when you don't know what you're going to be training for. It's tough to keep that kind of motivation up. But then on the other side of the coin, you got to look at it that you're very fortunate to actually be able to do that, because a lot of people have obviously lost their jobs in the country and have to rely on the government heavily to support them. So I think that being in a position we're in, we have to sort of treat it with the respect it deserves, and try and do our bit for the communities, for people watching at home, to try and set a really good example on social media whenever possible as well.
So watch the interview in full at 7 o'clock tonight. Now, Neil has spoken a few times about his partner's previous battles with anxiety. He has a clear message for anyone struggling in these very, very difficult times. Exercise regularly and don't suffer in silence.
Yeah, I think, there's a lot of help now, especially online. And I know that there's a lot of, group calls you can do with like Zoom and stuff like that. There's plenty of people on social media willing to help. Probably the best thing I could say personally to do is to make sure that, in these times that you're structuring your day really well. Just plan everything out and have a really good structure in place with what you're actually doing, because, I think with Miller, it's really important that she goes out, does her runs, and all these sorts of things. You got to really take advantage of that time that you can go outside and go for a run. You've really got to do it. I think exercise is probably the most important thing to do right now. Get out, get some fresh air. Don't all flock to the beach though in huge crowds. Go out, do your run, do a bit of cycling. It's the most important thing right now. And just follow the guidelines as well as you can, and eat healthy. Whatever you do not binge on junk food and just sit and watch TV all day. Try and keep as active as possible.
And how is your partner now?
Yeah, completely different to how she was a few years ago. Just absolutely amazing. I think since we kind of come out and talk about it, we've seen a lot of other top athletes talk about it as well. Especially like people like Tyson Fury doing the documentary, which has been absolutely wonderful for mental health and helping people understand what it actually is. There's not a bad sort of stigma attached to it anymore. It's actually something where people come out and friends and family can all gather around and support each other, through some tough times, because I think it's tough for everyone at the moment. And it's great to see a large network of people supporting each other.
Do you think the message is quite clear? Don't suffer in silence.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to talk about it. Don't be afraid to talk about it. I think I did an interview the other day that I retweeted on Twitter, and all of a sudden it was like flooded with messages saying, "Thanks so much for doing this. You wouldn't know it, but it means an awful lot to people when people like you can actually talk about it publicly." And so, from my point of view, that's absolutely job done. And I'm always open to talk and help people on social media as well.
Really good, honest stuff from Neil Robertson there. So you can watch that interview in full at 7 o'clock tonight, but that's it from me. Stay in and stay safe.